Good evening, everyone. I was asked to talk about my technique in light painting. A long time ago, I've had fascination with outdoor elements, the textures and shapes in nature, from flowers to pine cones, mushrooms, whatever you can think of. This works out well when I'm doing a broader landscape image. But when I get down to the individual element, my idea was I want to show you what I'm fascinated by with the texture of a mushroom or the petals of the flower. And during the daytime, that was very hard for me to demonstrate without all this other clutter around it. Although there are really some wonderful photographs of such items with clutter around them. But I mainly want to focus on one. I want you to see one item hopefully you will see what I'm seeing in that item. The richness of a red flower, the individual veins of a decaying piece of leaf that's been sitting on the ground for months. I've been trying to figure out how to do this, and of course this technique's not new. A lot of people have done it. I've seen examples of it, but I'm trying my way of doing it. So actually around 2003 in the springtime, I looked outside and our whole yard is blooming, roses and hydrangeas and dogwoods. So it was easy enough to just step out the door with my camera or my tripod, a light source, and just give it a go to put my theory to practice. So this is one of my first attempts. This is a rose garden, and you can see the rose was so high I had to fashion something to get up there, to get my camera up to the rose, and then wait, because two elements have to take place for me. It has got to be dark as it can be, and there cannot be any wind, because some of these exposures are 30 seconds, minute long sometimes. This red rose, because it's so red, I had to spend a longer time painting it or adjust some of my settings. So you can see the setup on the left-hand side, of course, and out there. And this is one of the results. Of course, I'm picking up stuff in the background. That was the only setback with some of this. I had to position the lens in such a way and light paint in such a fashion that I'm getting what I want, but trying to eliminate anything else around it. Of course, I can go in Photoshop and take that out. So from here, it went on to I tried other plants. This is one of our dogwoods. I did several attempts with it. I was trying to do different methods of trying to just paint some and have some in the background. There again, I was trying to work with the plant that's on the tree or on the bush until I got around to finally setting up a studio inside one of our bedrooms. So I took one of our bedrooms and covered up the windows. I bought this backdrop at one end of the room. Maybe the room is maybe this long. I'm here and the backdrop's back here with the cloth coming out. And my subject matter more or less in the center. So, but then I had to come up with ways to make the plant look like it's suspended in midair. So the extra stuff doesn't show up. Like the small tripod I've used a whole lot. It's very good because I can adjust it. I can adjust the angle of it and raise it and lower it as I need to. Simple piece of wire. And I've also found the kneaded eraser is very handy because you can mold it to whatever you want. It sticks very well. It's got good holding power. It's a simple thing. I'm using simple devices. And so when I choose my subject matter, I'm trying to, like a flower, I'm trying to find a long stalk to go with it so that I can suspend it up far enough away from what's supporting it. I use styrofoam. This is a dried up hydrangea, I think, yeah. It works very well. You can stick the plant in it, and it's pretty steady. I probably should paint this black. For instance, this one on the right here, recently I used these, actually they're gem clips, because I found out, I was photographing dandelions recently, and I found if you cut a dandelion, so far up, it's hollow inside. You can just slide it down. If you got a long enough dandelion, it will be up out of the way. The metal would hold it, but it'd still be up, not moving. So that's, I use everyday items, so I'm always looking for something else to use. Fishing wire, suspended from the ceiling fan, works out. You see the ceiling fan's right here, and the wire's coming down, and in the back, I've got kneaded eraser holding it. Okay? But with this, I've used this method. One year I did some Christmas ornaments just to see what would come up. And I would zoom into them after I set it up, and it'd be moving when I focus in on it. And I'll go away, come back an hour later, and it's still moving. It's still swinging just a little bit. So again, I had to come up with something. This is a wooden dowel, painted black, kneaded eraser again, to keep it steady. It's holding it in the back. So, which all works out well because my lens is only right here. It's only focused on that. And you can see the cloth, and that's the closet right there. It's a pretty big backdrop, but still, I still have areas that are exposed. Here's one where I also use black thread. The dried up leaves, I think some of you have seen some of those photographs of dried up leaves. It's a black thread going, it's the same strand, I just ran it from one end to the other. And they're resting on there. This method has worked very well for backlighting. If I'm very skillful, I can have my light source down here shining up from behind. This one here. This is backlighting. This is the same method. It's just these leaves are on the strings, and I'm carefully backlighting it. Photoshop tells me this is like 1,000 seconds, but it wasn't. That whole time was not exposing the leaves. It was me. The clock's running, but it's me gingerly trying to maneuver it so the light source doesn't show up in the frame. And I'm always looking for. I'm always looking for different methods. I've been doing a search for scientific tools, or I know there are tools out there that can grasp onto small things. I'm trying to work up jigs that I can use for motion. This is what I use for my light source. It's a super bright 6-lead mini barrel light. That's all it is. And then I fashioned this tube here of cardboard to better aim my light, to better focus it. This works pretty well, but I can aim it better with the tube. And I've even taken wax paper and put it over this light to diffuse it some. Very simple, everyday tools, methods, nothing special. I have used this one sometimes on bigger objects, but not too often because it's really too bright. Because I need the time to paint the object the way I want it to look. I wanted to get into, because the equipment is the camera. I use Of course, I still because I don't have the money, I still have a Canon Rebel camera, but I have a 10 to 22 millimeter lens because I can't afford a micro lens right now or a 50 millimeter lens. But I've been using it for years, and it works well. My only constriction is if an object gets, well, I don't know if you can see it, if it gets about this big, it's very hard for my lens to pick up because I cannot get close. We can see right there how close I am. So that's the only restriction with it. I have a shutter release cable. I need definitely need that. I use back button or live focus on my camera. I know a lot of you know what I'm talking about. I'm looking through the back here because I can zoom in at least 10 times to the object and then manually focus it. So that way I can use my focus bracket and move it to the part of the flower I want to expose, to have in focus. But it also shows me if the thing is standing still. Because sometimes I can mount something on the stick or whatever, and it's not as stable as I think it is. I zoom in and I can see it gradually just moving, and I got to stop and fix it. So I'm back focusing on it. All this with the lights on. Then, of course, turn the lights off. Hit the release, and then I start painting. And I usually start with a 10-second exposure to see what I'm getting, because sometimes I'm not sure what I'm going to get. I get surprised by some of it. And examine the image that comes out. From there, I decide, depending on the object, what I want to highlight. So from there, I start with, then I would go to long exposures, or I start painting this petal or that one, or these need to be painted more, or I will angle my light at a different angle for a more contrast if I'm photographing a fossil or a mushroom, for instance. But I'm not always successful in leaving the object out. Like, of course, there you can see, because I didn't have a long enough stem, that's the kneaded eraser. That's attached to a gem clip, attached to the small tripod. But sometimes I can angle it to where it's not exposed, or most of it's out of the picture, and I can take it out in Photoshop. Here on my motion shots, I was trying this angle, and of course you can see my thumb, and that's the tripod, and you can see it's moving. Of course, you can see the motion there, because I was practicing with it to see at what speed I could move it and still expose it. Because on this instance, I'm started here. This is all the same. Of course, this is all the same shot. Here, this is where it started. I'm exposing this. Then I'm gradually moving it, painting it all the whole time, and then stopping here and exposing it for a longer period of time so it'll show up more than in here. I think I did this at a different angle, straight on where all this was gone, or not showing up very much. But of course, like I said, I've had to go into Photoshop and alter things. And of course, your light shows up sometimes. When I'm backlighting, that's the hassle I have with backlighting sometimes. No matter how long my arm is, sometimes I just can't quite get it out of the shot. Or if I'm trying to, this particular spider lily, I was trying to highlight all these, I don't know, those are petals. Those aren't petals.
Stamens. Stamens. Anthers and
Okay. That sounds good. But I was trying to expose this, but I really wanted to get these to show up. So I had to dance my light around. And of course, it got into the shot. Of course, when I finally get to the point where I have the object the way I want it, I will shoot it in every, like 12 different directions or angles. Here, of course, I got it straight on. Here, I angled it from the shot down from the top. And then I'll try both angles, or I'll rotate it around, or shoot from underneath. Whatever seems to interest me, I get surprised by what I get sometimes. So I could go into the room and work on one of these, and 2 hours later, it's my wife is asking me if I'm okay. So, and sometimes I'll go in there and I'll have 2 or 3 different objects that I'm going to try and shoot in the same stretch. So I'm in there for quite a while, and I'm always on the lookout for different objects. I mean, I can be walking my dog and see something and pick it up. I did, this moth was really interesting. It doesn't matter if it's dried up or dead. It could be a good shot. This flower is dried up. The leaf is. I'm going to try this one soon because I like the shapes of it. If I can do backlighting of it, it could prove interesting. The feather, I've tried feathers, and I've actually blown on them a little bit while they're lit to get a little bit of motion. So, and there's really not much I won't try the photograph. Right now I'm trying a method of photographing different types of knots, like square knots, bowlines, and because we have friends who are cavers. I'm a caver, and we do vertical caving sometimes. So we have knots we have to know how to tie. So I'm trying that experiment to see if I can make anything interesting coming out of that. So that's pretty much it for the talk. Anyone have any questions?
So, like on that lily, you have the light behind it. You don't have any light shining onto it. It's shining from the back when you say backlight. Is that what you mean?
On the
pink lily.
the tiger lily. Yeah, this one. I actually painted this one from several different angles. This particular one, it's straight on. And I have to. My camera on the back starts counting off. I can see the numbers, and so, like, I'll expose the front of it for 5 seconds. Then I'll move the same light around to the side. In this particular case, I'm kind of swooping it to pick those up. There's sometimes with like leaves straight on, they look okay, but when you backlight them, they really come alive. So I might only just do that. But then that's what I mean. I'll be in the room for 2 or 3 hours because I'm trying. That looks interesting, but let's try this. So I'll backlight it. Then I may come up front for like a 5-second burst on the front to get what I think looks good. So, and now all of these are, I didn't mention, a lot of these are like f-stops, so like F10, F8, 5, 6. It depends on the object. If it's a dark object, then I have to open the f-stop more. I'm always shooting on ISO 100. If it's once in a while I have to change that. Of course, the shutter speed is manual. Yep.
Yeah, so, going back to the mushroom pictures that you had up there, would that be an example, say the mushroom on the right, where you're basically keeping the light at one point the entire time? Because the shadows is a little bit more.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes. Yes. In this particular case, I did have the light here most of the time. because I was trying to get some texture to show up. But I may have, I can't remember precisely, but most of it was here. I may have swung around this way briefly.
Okay.
I've done just a single angle, and that some of this would just be dark, but I'd just do a quick blast.
Right.
And this one here, I probably had a rod going straight up the center. Most of the mushrooms were easy because I was able to jam a rod up up the center to support it. And it was easy enough to take out because a lot of the mushrooms I would have part of the ground with it. If I have some roots going with it, I try to shoot those too because they're really interesting.
When you're actually shooting, do you close the vents in your room? Do you shut the air off altogether?
No, I don't have to. I've got one vent in the top, and it's high enough to where it doesn't affect anything. Yeah, I've already, because in the very beginning, I checked that out. Because if something delicate like the leaves or the feather, for instance, I don't want anything. But the vent doesn't bother because it's not blowing that hard. I'm actually working on a diagram of finding maybe a little lazy Susan to attach a dowel to attach a plant or something to it. So maybe I can try a circle motion. I'm always looking for something interesting.
What kind of lights are these now? Because they don't shine on your backdrop. So what keeps them?
Well, my backdrop is usually far enough back,
That looks so close.
and it's still far enough back, but the lens is almost right. Well, you can see right there, it's almost right on top of the object, and the light sources are so small that I can concentrate.
What size are these? You say that it's so small.
Yeah, they're like this big.
Okay. I couldn't tell by, they look huge.
No, that's like this size.
Okay. Thank you.
But the backdrop, now, I've had some clutter. If I do a long exposure, I've had some specks here and there, some dust in the air, or some moisture that would pick up here and there, and I'd have to take them out. But you see it in the demo that I'm around on top of what I'm shooting. So the background hardly ever shows up.
Good, thank you. Where do you work your color temperature? Is it an automatic function of your camera, or do you make adjustments? The colors are really busy.
Oh well, no, it's the automatic function of the camera.
Okay.
Now, of course, I've taken Photoshop, but in the camera, it's automatic. I mean, what I'm shooting is what I have in the setting in the camera is what. I'm not trying to shoot cool or warm on purpose. Sometimes I have to work with the white balance, especially with purples. Purples get very frustrating because they try to convert to blue. That's where I have to kind of work it in Photoshop, try and bring it back to the actual plant. But I'm sure there are more technical ways of dealing with it. But I'm trying to get it just as close to the plant as I can.
Can I be tried using any focus stacking on any of your close-up?
No, not yet. I haven't. No, I mean, right now it's just straight back focusing in the manual, and that's just going that way. So I mean, that is something I'm considering. Right now, I'm trying to explore the motion part of it a little bit more. So, but it's got to be the right plant. It can't be Like I said, I just did a dandelion recently. Several shots of one dandelion where I'm hitting it with an air can, with one exposure gently, and then more and more, and it's pushing it. Anybody else?
Are these lights available to just do Photoshops, or I mean, are they?
Are these the barrel lights? You can go to any drugstore and get them. It's real simple. Yeah, I needed something really small, but it's amazing once you first buy these. They're so, like I said, they're so bright. On one of them, this yellow one, I actually had to put some wax paper over it because it was too bright. It was painting it too quick for me. You know, if I have something with a lot of texture that I want some time to paint, I had to block it down some. So that's the reason for the tube. That helps me have enough time to paint what I want.
The image that you shared with APG of the leaf, and then you had the movement. How did you photograph that one?
Oh, okay. Kind of the same. Where is it? I used the same tripod. It's on a wire, and I actually had to test it out. It's suspended on a wire, and I had my lens open in daylight with the lights on, and actually move. That's why the tripod is so interesting and so neat, because I can take the handle, loosen it up, and move the whole thing. Well, move the whole thing like that, and test it out. So it's all one exposure. So in the beginning, when I have it, well, you all know, because it's dark, the sensor won't pick up anything when it's dark until you add light to it. So when it's dark and I expose the leaf in the beginning for long enough, I mean, I've been timing it, looking at the back of the camera, looking at the timer, for like, say, 10 seconds. Then I'll take the light away and gently move it, and then light it again as it's moving. And then get it halfway up, stop it, light it for longer. Okay? And then move it again to the end. And where I have my ending point, that's why I had to practice several times. Get to the end, expose it with light for a longer period of time. So in the middle, it's a blur. Same thing with the dandelion. The dandelion I just did. In the beginning, the dandelion's sitting there, and I'm really exposing it for a long time. Then the next shot, I'm hitting it with a air can, and I get to midpoint and I expose it for a longer period of time. Like I said, here, this is a long exposure with light, long burst of light, I should say. Then I'm moving it, but at this point, this comes, trial and error. I'm lighting it as it's moving. But since it's moving, it's not going to show up as clear. And I get to the end here, stop it, light it for a longer period of time. So it's tricky, it's trial and error, and I got to come up with gadgets to make things move the way I want. So. So I mean, the room's not completely dark like I would like it, so the results may not be, they won't be what I would like. And you may, if you want to see, you may have to come up closer, because I work in a small space, so if you're welcome to come up. So like you saw in the picture, it's normally I have a backdrop about this far back, but it's a lot higher and it's a lot wider to cancel out anything else in the room, like my shelves or drawing table or whatever. And I usually have a stool or you can use a taller tripod. But the setup is pretty close to this. I love this tripod because I can angle it sideways like this. I can move this any way I want because I need to get around the image. And so sometimes I can rotate my wherever it's on, but normally when I set something up, I don't want to touch it. So it's good to have a tripod where I can make it. So I'll raise it, lower it, move it around. So, and I just use a shutter release cable. And this is the light. That's all it is. I mean, without that. But it's just a simple drugstore. You can find a drugstore light. Just
LED lights?
yeah, yeah, just six LED. Yeah. Because I need a small light because I'm dealing mainly with small objects. I don't want to blow it out. Okay, so I'll set up the object and I get my camera in here. It's all manual. Okay, so I'm using it. You can hardly see it, but you can see I'm back focusing or live focus. And I can zoom in 10 times to the object. This way I can tell if it's moving or not. Then also, well, normally I have the house lights on. Right now I've got to try and focus.
Where do you choose to focus on flowers mainly?
It depends on the flower. Normally, in this case, I'll go right to the center. Sometimes, if I'm trying to do 2 or 3, I'll try to meet it halfway. Or I would take shots where the front one's in focus and the back one's not, or vice versa. It depends on what I'm shooting, how I think it'll look best. So I'm using my frame here into the center, and I zoom in. I can zoom in 10 times. That's about as good as I can get it. And then turn out the lights, and I just turn it on. You see the numbers going off there, right? And then I'll start painting with the light.
Are you on bulb or are you setting a?
Oh yeah, I'm on bulb. A minute, we'll go back. See, but this is it. But it's showing up everything where it wouldn't in the house. It's showing up. You can see it is showing up. Because I couldn't get one, I got this out of my front yard. I couldn't get one with a longer stem, so I am showing up the wire and the needed eraser. But if this was at home, I could position this to where that would be hidden.
So how long was your exposure again?
This was only 11 seconds.
Is that typical of what you?
I usually start with 10 or 11 seconds to see what I get and then build from there.
Okay.
Yeah, to see what I'm getting. Well, I say, well, I want to highlight this or that. So I might try an angle. And with all this. So it's going to be kind of hard because it's not as dark in here. The results aren't going to be quite the same as I would get at home because it's showing up everything's showing up way too much. Yeah.
Son of Dame Lily.
Yes.
So how would you backlight it if you're in the front trying to see the camera?
This one may not work as well backlit, but normally I've got a lot of room here to, but we give it a shot. Yeah, haha. But for instance, I'd do this. I'd hold it down as far as I could out of frame. But it did get some of this here. Of course, like I said, it's not the best conditions. But that is something I would try at home. Because I'll try this angle. I'll try overhead from either side.
Have you ever tried these tiny little pen lights?
No, I haven't. The leads I have, but the LEDs work out very well. It's usually a kind of a cool light. It's not very warm, and it works, suits my needs. It works out. So
about the lights, what kind of light source is it? Is it just the regular light, a flashlight?
Yeah.
Oh, just a
It's just a regular flash. Yeah.
Okay, it's not color corrected or anything.
No.
Okay, just a regular.
No, it's just I was just saying in the lecture. Everything is
okay.
ordinary in the house things that
What you can go
you can pick up. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.